Hello, this video is going to be a bit different. People often ask me what I'm using to make my drawings and illustrations. I thought I'd make this video what I'm drawing with, and I guess some people are going to disagree. I draw with mechanical pencils. I know you're not supposed to draw with that. It's supposed to be used for technical drawing and not art stuff. Obviously an eraser. As you can see, I have to get a new one very soon. So that's how I draw stuff. Then for the line art, I use these pens, Faber-Castell Pit Artist Pen Fine Liner. The ones I use are S 0.3. I have a stock of new ones, and as they age, the point gets less precise and larger. That's an old one, and that's a somewhat new one. And so I use the old ones to do large lines, and the new ones to do fine lines. That's my watercolor box. It's very small. You can buy very large ones. Honestly, I don't see the point, because you can mix the colors, so you don't need to have a huge fancy box or anything. I just have 12 colors, and even then I barely ever use that brown right there. Also, don't use this, I keep it because it came with the box, but don't use this really small weird brushes that come with the set. They're not great. So I have this, but I also have a synthetic one. This one is very damaged because I've had it for like 10 years. That's a more precise one, and even then it's kind of a large one for the stuff I'm doing. I also have this really tiny one, which is to use to paint stuff like Warhammer stuff. And I have this, which is very, very handy when you're drawing outside, because it's a brush with water in it. So if you need more water, instead of having a thing full of water that you carry with you, you just have to press it, and presto, you get water that you can mix with colors. It's really neat, and it takes less space in your bag, so really nice, and not expensive either. So yeah, pretty cool. I also have just a normal ballpoint pen, because for some unfathomable reason I'm more confident when I draw ballpoint. I have no idea why. My sketches are better in ballpoint pen. For some reason, when I can't erase my mistakes, I'm more confident. So I guess I'm going to show watercolors a bit, the colors I have in this. So very pale yellow, a stronger yellow, red. I'm using the hell out of this one. It's more pinkish red. That's electric blue or cobalt blue. That's closer to china blue. You have green, some kind of emerald green, but I'm not very fond of it. Brown, very light brown. Reddish brown, which I'm not using very often, because it's pretty close to dark brown. And neutral tint or black. You can see it's very, very black. It's very good, and you can dilute it very well, so you can make all types of gray nuances with it. If you ever run out of one of them, you can buy tiny half pans. It's called the half pan. A pan is twice that size. half pans. They're not cheap, but that's cheaper than buying the whole set again. And also, if the original set had a color you're not using a lot, you can replace it with a color you prefer. So you just take a knife, you get the half pan out of there. It tends to stick because of the paint. And there's a lot of different brands. I like Winsor & Newton, but Dalerone is also fine. Then there's Watercolor Inks. That's one of them. That's liquid inks. They have really vivid, bright colors, way stronger than the watercolor ones. But they mix very easily with watercolor. So basically, what I tend to do is have a layer of watercolor, and on top I'm using inks to have a stronger version of what I did before, or I use inks to wash the whole painting with a thin layer of something new like this to blend everything together. So that's how I'm using inks. There's also watercolor pencils. Watercolor pencils, I'm using them to add details usually and lights on top of the rest once it's dry, which I can't show to you right now because it's not dry. As you can see, there are pencils, but the difference with a normal pencil is that it's actually a watercolor inside. So how does it work? You color stuff with them like that, and if you want it to look like watercolor, you take some water and you blend them together. See? So yeah, it's very good to transition from pencils to watercolor because it's basically a mix of the two. It's easier to use than watercolor because you can mix stuff directly on the paper. It's less messy, and they last for a very long time. The problem is they're kind of expensive if you buy a whole set at once, but if you only have to replace one of them, you can also buy them independently. So yeah, it would be a nice birthday gift or something because they are kind of expensive. But again, they last for a long time. Some of these, most of these actually, were gifted to me when I was 10 years old, and I'm 33, so it's not like I haven't used them. I've made entire paintings with them through the years, so I use them pretty intensively. And they're still there, so yeah, they last for a very long time, and they're very good. Also, you've probably seen me adding white details on a painting before, and I do that with the Posca pen. Basically, it's painting in a pen, very opaque painting. So if you add it on top of a dry painting, it really stands out. They come in a variety of colors. I almost only use that one. I also have felt tip pens. I don't use them very often, but sometimes you're gonna have a detail like an eye or something that needs something very bright and colorful, but also very precise. Yeah, I also have blotting paper. You shouldn't put it right on top of the stuff you've just painted, but if it's not dry yet, but you can't see the shine of the paints anymore, you can just bring it out and use it to flatten the drawing like that. And the sketchbook itself, it's getting harder and harder to find those where I live. It's Clairefontaine Carnet de Voyage travel book, 180 grams, sort of a thick paper. It's still pretty thin. It has this balance where I'm not supposed to draw on both sides, but I still do it because they're expensive, and I want to use double the pages basically. So as you can see, the paint goes through the pages, and I still use both sides like an idiot. Also, because it's more satisfying that way, I really hate looking at blank pages. Stuff I'm not using as often as the rest, but of course rulers. And this is very, very handy to draw circles. But I don't use it very often, except in professional stuff, because I'm lazy and an idiot. I also have this nifty thing to make curves, but it's mostly useful on large paper. For really, really small drawings like that, it's not very easy to use. See, if I wanted to make a curve for the head, it's not bending enough. I usually carry everything in a little box in my bag. So there, everything fits in there. If I want to use ink, I pick the one I need the most in advance and I add it there. It's kind of, you see, it doesn't take too much space. I hope this was helpful. I'm sorry this video is a bit long, and see you next time.